Hi, my name is Jim Tobin, and I'm president of the Taxpayer Education Foundation. We are releasing our annual report and top 200 pensions for the state university retirement system. SERS is one of 6 state pensions, statewide pensions. Leslie Heffitz retired from the University of Chicago 6 years ago at the age of 55. His current annual pension is a mind-boggling $598,000. When he reaches 85 years of age, his annual pension will be approximately $1.2 million a year. Those incredible payments will accumulate to more than $21.5 million by the time Leslie reaches the age of 85. That's $21.5 million for one guy. For many years, Tapas Dasgupta, a retired UIC surgical oncologist, topped our list of top Illinois pensioners. His current annual pension is $509,000. He has already collected $5.6 million. He is a pension multi-millionaire already. These excessive pension promises are the single cause of Illinois' budget crisis, and there's no relief in sight. The Springfield government bureaucrats believe they can tax their way out of this problem, but that is mathematically impossible. The state government retirement systems have passed the point of no return. After burdening taxpayers with a recent 32% income tax increase, Springfield politicians are now plotting to hornswoggle taxpayers with yet another state income tax increase. The Income Tax Increase Amendment. The Income Tax Increase Amendment, SJR CA 16, is sponsored by suburban Senators Daniel Biss and Don Harmon. The amendment would usher in a graduated state income tax increase. If Springfield bureaucrats weren't so dishonest and greedy, they would support a state constitutional amendment on the ballot that allows pension reform that will keep the system from collapsing. Illinois is bankrupt as a direct result of its lavish, gold-plated government pensions that are protected from being modified by the state constitution. Are there any questions?
What is the long-term solution? And if you were governor, what would you do?
Work to get a constitutional amendment on the ballot to cut the state pensions. Otherwise, the state will go. The state is already bankrupt. They raised taxes, the income tax, by $5 billion. All of it went to pensions. They still can't afford to pay current bills. After raising the state income tax by $5 billion last year, they had to borrow $16 billion to cover recent bills. The state is bankrupt. They won't admit to it. They can't declare bankruptcy because the federals won't let them do it. But Illinois is bankrupt, and the bankruptcy of Illinois is caused by these lavish, gold-plated pensions. They're outlandish, ridiculous, they're legalized theft. There's no way in the hell we should be paying income taxes so people can become pension millionaires. And every one of the top 200 pensioners on our list, which we'll have on our website in another day or so, every one of these people will be pension multi-millionaires. This is income redistribution from taxpayers who have to work into our 60s and 70s to greedy bureaucrats, wealthy bureaucrats. It's money from taxpayers who make less, much less, than these people get paid for doing absolutely nothing.
To your knowledge, does Governor Rauner support the kind of constitutional amendment that you're advocating?
I don't know. I understand he's opposed to the graduated income tax, but Governor Rauner, he did come to our office 5 years ago. We had a chat with him, but he won't sign our pledge not to raise taxes, and he won't return his questionnaire. I don't really know. I do know he's opposed to the graduated state income tax increase, which almost all the Democratic candidates for governor supported, except Bob Marshall.
Including J.B. Pritzker, of course.
Yes.
To your knowledge, does J.B. Pritzker support, again, the constitutional amendment to limit pensions that you advocate?
Definitely not. He supports more tax increases. He supports SJR CA 16 or something even worse. In other words, he supports the income tax increase amendment that would be placed on the ballot by the General Assembly this November or 2 years from now. That's what he wants, another income tax increase. Unfortunately, it's not going to work. We're leading the country in out-migration. Illinois is leading the country 4 years in a row in out-migration. We had a net loss of 33,000 people last year. More and more taxpayers are going to leave as our taxes are raised. They will move to states with lower taxes, with a more mild climate, or with more friendly, or with relatives that they know who live in other states, like Wisconsin.
So the measure that J.B. Pritzker supports would lead to a graduated income tax.
He supports the graduated income tax, and we call that the income tax increase amendment. But he supports it, as did almost all the other, well, almost any other Democrat does as well. I just mentioned two suburban senators, Daniel Biss from Skokie and Don Harmon from Oak Park, who sponsor the income tax increase amendment, SJR CA 16.
So, as far as you know, J.B. Pritzker does not support a constitutional amendment to lower pension payout.
Correct.
Without that constitutional amendment, what's the future for the state of Illinois?
Well, it'll get worse. Illinois is already bankrupt. They haven't declared bankruptcy because the federals won't let them do it. But Illinois is bankrupt, and the situation will get worse for taxpayers. We will have to work into our 60s, 70s, and 80s. So these people can retire. These bloodsuckers can retire in their 50s and 60s. It's an immoral system, and these pensions are legalized theft.
A Democratic state like Rhode Island came to an agreement to cut pensions, and it was very well accepted. What needs to happen for the same kind of pension cut to take place in Illinois?
Well, we need to throw supporters of SJR 16 out of office. Throw out of office people like Daniel Biss and Don Harmon, assuming they have an opponent in November. If not, the next time around. Anyone who supports the graduated income tax, the income tax increase amendment, needs to be thrown out of office. And that includes several downstate Republicans who voted for the income tax increase last year, who we've already chased several of them already out of office.
Well, I'd like to disconnect the two, because you could support a progressive income tax or a graduated income tax and also support a constitutional amendment to cut pensions. So
I don't think so.
You couldn't?
No, I think if you're supporting the pensions, if in fact you're supporting a constitutional amendment to cut the pensions, you wouldn't need a tax increase. We could actually get a tax cut. We could get the economy moving. And so the movement for more and more taxes is coming from the pensions. And that's because the Constitution we have, which is a bad Constitution, and in fact, delegates to the Constitution included the Senate Majority Leader, John Cullerton, and Michael Madigan. They were delegates to the 1970 Constitution. Look at the crappy Constitution we have. It's because of the delegates like Madigan and Cullerton who gave us a very, very bad Constitution for taxpayers. The 1870 Constitution was a much better Constitution for taxpayers than the 1970 Constitution, which makes it impossible to cut the pensions for these ridiculous pensions for the government retirees, multi-million-dollar retirees. It's a bad Constitution. It needs to be amended. And unfortunately, politicians like Daniel Biss and Don Harmon want to raise the income tax, and yet again. And the reason we're having a problem, I have to reiterate, is because once they raise the income tax, like Pat Quinn did a few years back, by $30 billion over 4 years, all of that went to pensions. He raised the income tax 67%, Quinn did. Almost all of that went to pay the pension because the 1970 Constitution says pensions must be paid first. It's a horrible Constitution, and it needs to be amended so that the pensions can be cut. I visited 20 states like Kentucky and Arizona, and 20 states exposing the pension problem in those states back in 2011, 2012. And so in some of the states, like Arizona, did implement reforms after we were there and started exposing the problem and predicting problems for them.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.